Hello, hello. Hey guys, how are you?
Doing well.
Doing well.
That's good. That's good. Taylor back for round two. Good to see you here, as always.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Can't get enough. And Chris, first time on the stream with us too, which is awesome.
Yeah, really excited.
Yeah, so for those of you people who are watching this VOD, which will be uploaded as later, this is the BIG Esports founder pitch. This is the second time that we've done it, and thankfully we've struck up a sort of partnership with Twitch this time. So they're featuring us on the front page of Australia, which is awesome, and really trying to use this as a vehicle to educate some more people on how to pitch as a startup, what investors are looking for, and hopefully, even if nothing else, learn some of the lingo, which can be pretty daunting. So, Taylor, you're on the last stream, but we'll get you to do it again. Can you just give a bit of information to the people watching? What's your background? Who are you working for? Why are you here? And what are you interested in the market?
So, as I have previously stated in the first stream we had, I work for Konvoy Ventures. We're an esports and gaming VC based in Denver. We invest in the early stage, pre-seed, seed, sometimes Series A if the opportunity persists. And then we like to classify our investments as the infrastructure or picks and shovels of esports and gaming. So we don't invest in two pretty large categories within both markets, and that would be esports organizations and game studios. We like to take on more technology approaches, and something that I will continually say I'm very excited in, and probably forever, is technology that benefits audience monetization. I think that is a seriously lacking area of esports, and I'm excited to see what new technologies are leveraged to increase monetization over the years.
Yeah, cool. And Chris, for you, mate, first time here, let us know. Same question.
Yeah, so I'm an investment manager at LeagiON Sports. So LeagiON Sports focuses on sports tech, so that's esports and traditional sports. So we don't really have a thesis yet on esports. We're still pretty early in the space, but we've made a couple investments already. For me personally, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the grassroots side of esports, and also where the real and the digital world connect. So I'm very interested in the first esport that takes place both online and offline. And I think sort of things around that nature are going to be very interesting for this space.
Yeah, a question for you, I guess, on that, Chris, is I've been doing a lot of research recently into like augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, things that can get people, for lack of a better term, off the couch and moving while they're playing games at the same time. Do you see that as like a crossover? Obviously, we've seen like so many football, soccer clubs, NFL, etc., get into esports. A lot of the time they're focusing purely on Madden, on FIFA, on NBA. Do you think that that's going to start to be like a bit of a melding of worlds coming forward?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I don't know if you've heard about fan-controlled football league, but they're looking to create an entire football league where the fans decide every single play, every transaction, which players are on their team. And I think that's right along that vein. So I think we definitely see things go into that space.
It's like a real life FIFA where everybody gets to play, right? Like Twitch plays Pokemon, but real life.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we've got three different kinds of startups today that are coming in for you guys. I mean, Taylor, you've mentioned specifically that you're interested in like the technology behind the things and not so much the esports teams, which is kind of the people that we've wrapped up today. Can you talk about like some specific trends that you're seeing in that space? Like one thing you obviously identified, which I think everyone's talking about, is monetization and drawing more money. But what else do you think that the industry needs to sustain its growth?
I think an important factor to consider in the streaming space is not only the monetization side, but the engagement side. You tend to see when you're on Twitch, the majority of engagement is just this never-ending chat room that almost seems to serve little purpose besides showing how quickly 25,000 people can type random emojis. And I think as the streaming space grows, we're going to begin to see more extensions or more add-ons on these platforms that allow for people to truly be part of the stream instead of just being a viewer. And that's obviously something that would never have been possible when you look at like cable television. There's the closest we ever got to that in the sense of traditional television is like text in your vote. I'm not even confident that is very accurate or that it's actually a real thing that's happening. And it might just keep people interested in watching it, which I guess is the point. But with the crossover of gaming and streaming and just the infrastructure that allows for audiences to watch these streams, I think there is a gap where there can be actual true engagement with the streamer, and that it can also go into the monetization thesis around being able to create new revenue streams for publishers or the streamers themselves, or even the streaming platform. So outside of just monetization, and it doesn't need to be monetized at the same time. People are willing to just be more engaged, and I think this is something that a lot of streamers are going to start looking for in the future. Is what tool allows me to be one with my audience, and I think that's going to be a really interesting trend going forward, and especially with the younger generations that I think I call Gen Z, moving away from traditional sports and into the esports and the content creation and YouTube content creators being true celebrities. We're going to see a massive push into how can 100,000 fans engage with one famous content creator, and I'm really interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that's really true. I've had this discussion quite a bit recently, and I found fascinating about new influencers, like you're saying, as celebrities versus old. I think that the allure of a sports celebrity, or particularly a movie star, was the fact you couldn't touch them. Was the fact that they came out for their one AAA blockbuster movie a year, then they went off into their hills. You never heard from them again, except for maybe one TMZ article. You could never talk to them, you could never speak to them, and you can never even hope to know them. But now it's the opposite. Like, Jade, who we've done some work with on TikTok, creates up to 7 pieces of content per day. She live streams once or twice. She does 3 to 4 TikTok. She's on Twitter. She's on Instagram posting stories. She's on LinkedIn. And people want to follow that journey. They want to see what you're doing all the time. And when I'm talking to people who want to be an influencer, I say to them, think about yourself as the fan. If you are following an influencer on Instagram and they haven't posted a story in like 7 hours, you think they're dead. So you need to have that constant interaction, because not only do you fall out of the algorithm, but you also fall out of people's brains. We've only got so much attention, right? So if you're not capturing that person and constantly being in front of their face, doing brand deals and doing meetups and being exciting and asking people questions on Instagram and doing collab TikTok videos where you're dancing with fans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you just really start to fall out of favor unless you've got something truly special and truly unique to offer.
On that note, I think it is a super interesting trend. These co videos that you're seeing a lot on TikTok. I think that's super interesting and like a really great way to engage with their fans. I saw it was Fortnite announced with Pokemon that they were going to begin inserting like people's own dances in as emotes, and with just that one post, I've seen over 100 posts of her fans doing the side-by-side video of the dance as well, and it's creating this virality around her as an influencer and as a celebrity. And I think we will see this more. And the awesome part about that is there's very, very little tech that needed to be done. It was just, hey, we just need to be able to put 2 videos side by side. But we'll start to see more technology come out where there's even further engagement and more people can engage at scale, because that is not scalable, but at the same time that kind of happened organically, and it shows how people want to be engaged with the people that they look up to or they're fans of.
And one last question for you, Chris, before we bring the first guest in. Like, as an investor in the market, how does a startup stand out to you? Like, besides, everyone talks about investing in the founder, not the company. Everyone obviously is interested in ROI and revenue and how much runway, etc. But what's some of the special sauce that if someone's creating a startup, they should think about? How do they set themselves apart from the pack?
For me, over here at Lead Sports, so we're an accelerator, so we're really focused at pre-seed and seed stage. So a lot of times I really think it's about the founder and the founder's background. There's a lot of noise in this space. There's a lot of people going after similar opportunities. I think I like to speak to entrepreneurs that are well connected and have a background in that particular space. So they've sort of built a network already, which allows them to move very quickly.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well, right? So, for me, like, expanding on that, it's just about having a proper subject matter expert, right? Someone who truly understands their audience and can go ahead. And I've listened to a few companies on Startup about that as well. They did a series on companies that were winding down or about to run out of funding. And it was similar, a lot of the ones that weren't successful is because they thought, I really like eating bento boxes. Why don't I make a bento box company? But none of the founders were a chef. None of the founders understood the supply chain, and it figured out that they were losing like $17 per bento box they were selling. So, that's got to kill your company pretty quick, because they got very popular because they're obviously very cheap.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. It's not just about having that network. It's also that's the best way to find problems, right? Is when it's a problem for yourself and you just have to find a way to fix this. You go out and nobody else has fixed it, and then you realize, wow, this is something that everybody needs. It's exactly that.
Yeah, very true, very true. All right, so we'll bring on our first person. So for those people watching today, the first guest is a man called Alex, who will bring in a second, from a company called LeagiON. So LeagiON describes themselves as creating a mobile app for people who like to play video games competitively. The app allows gamers to safely connect and play with others for money. We don't allow gambling. You can only bet on yourself. So we'll bring him in. Alex, welcome. First cab off the rank. How are you?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Doing great. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, no worries, mate. So you've got the next anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes to pitch your company to the investors. So go for it.
All right, sure. So my name is Alexander Diner. I am the CEO and co-founder of LeagiON. LeagiON is an app helping casual gamers to initiate a friendly bet for a one-on-one game online. I mean, we all know about rapid growth of esports industry, gaming industry. And one of the most common engagements for the gamers online is just a one-on-one game. Now, if you're a little bit more competitive, like a lot of people out there, hundreds of millions of people out there, and like to play for money, the process of engagement becomes very complicated. From very easy, where you just click your friend and start gaming, to much more complicated. So the best solutions available right now for those guys who like to play for money is basically chat rooms where you can try to find the other side with an escrow account attached to it, where money is being collected and the service provider is allowing you to play each other. And once the game is over, you have to report the score back to the service provider. So this service providers, they really don't know who you are. There's very little transparency into that. They know, what the score of the game is. If one of you dropped off the line, they don't know which one of you did it. In fact, they have no idea if the game was ever played or not. So needless to say, it creates a lot of ambiguities. And by some estimates, close to 1/3 of those engagements actually end up in some sort of arbitration or failure altogether. So people rarely actually use them. With hundreds of millions of gamers around the world, the solutions like XY Gaming or Players Lounge or Game Saloon only have very, very small following. So what we are providing, what we're building, so the main problem here within the industry is that your gaming environment and your betting environment totally detached. So what we are bringing to the market is a solution where basically you're in-game referee. So we know if you're engaged in betting. We know once you engage if you're playing. Once you're playing, we know what the score is. If one of you guys dropped off the line for whatever reason, we know which one of you did it. So our solution is very, very simple, very transparent. All you need to do is just download the app, reach out to your friend on, we're starting with the Xbox as a point of entry. Reach out to your friend on Xbox, ask him through our app, obviously has to have an app too, ask him if he wants to play for our token, like basically chips in the game, say 5 tokens, he says yes. We're starting the engagement on our back end. We watch you play, watch you go online, watch you engage, watch you start the game. Once the game is on, we know what the score is. Once the game is over, we know who won and basically pay the money. We don't need you to take any screenshots. We don't need you to go on Twitch to play. We don't need you to record your games. None of this is necessary. Everything's done for you by us. So it's a very, very simple and straightforward solution for, especially for casual gamers. It could be more competitive gamers as well. So we are currently in pre-beta stage. We had our MVP presented in Berlin, went through an accelerator program with Lead. That's how I know Chris. We know each other for some time now. We graduated from Lead, had a pretty successful presentation in Berlin on November 14th, getting some great traction and currently raising $850,000 for 18-month runway to launch the product. with the first game to go would be FIFA, the Xbox, with hundreds of millions of followers. And moving on with other games, depending on probably Microsoft games, not Microsoft through Xbox, which is Microsoft, but probably EA games within by the end of the year, scaling up our library to about 4 games, and having the first revenue coming in by the end of 12 months. That's us.
Cool. Taylor, you want to take it away?
Yeah, can you start just real quick walking me through the process flow of a customer? So because I feel like there are some gaps in this in the way you described, start downloading the app and then playing the game and getting paid. So from what I understand, the consumer will download the mobile app. They will create an account. But this is where I see the first hole. Are you adding a gamer tag? How are you guys going to be recording these scores going forward? It needs to be, especially if it's, I think you mentioned it's 4 seconds in between end of match to getting paid. How does this happen?
Sure. So great question. So basically, currently we're doing the login through Xbox Live API, allowing us to, if you agree, as a gamer, to participate, basically watch your participation within the Microsoft ecosystem. For you to have our services, you have to agree to that. So the Xbox Live login works for both. Once you log in, we hold on to, based on your login names, we just watch you through the Xbox environment and see when we can tell when you're actually engaged in the game. I can tell you all the technology, but we can show you the results. So we're watching you. We're basically being your online referees. We're watching both of you engaging, and we know what the score of the game is. We know when the goal is scored. The key component is basically knowing the score. Nobody else does that. So we're watching, and the other key component, which is a huge problem within the industry, is if people, a lot of times people just drop off for whatever reason. It could be technical, but most of the time it's just people realizing they're not winning or whatever reason is, and they're getting frustrated or something. They just leave, and it takes forever for the other person to get paid through whoever, because the other person can say, no, I won. I mean, it's just too much of a mess. So as far as gaming is concerned, you're getting engaged, you're playing for our tokens. You have to buy our in-game tokens, which are fixed price. So once you're engaged, the amount that you both betted on goes to the escrow account, just being held aside. You play the game. Once the game is over, whatever the result might be, the winner gets the money into his account. Both of your profiles are updated based on that game.
What's the reason for creating this like economy around the tokens? Why doesn't it just make more sense to have, I put in $1, I get $1 worth of tokens? Like why do I need this token, and why does this token have a fluctuating value throughout this process? It seems like an unnecessary hurdle. Right.
No, token does not have a fluctuating value at all. Token is fixed price. It's going to be 5 cents a token. There's a number of reasons for that. One of the most important reasons for that is because of the transaction cost. So what happens when you engage in this type of environment, let's say on Players Lounge, I would say one of the biggest competitor, is you're paying 10% each for transaction. Once the game is over, you're actually getting only 80% of the total pool, right? Prize purse. So each and every time you play, you're getting charged that 10% from each gamer. So with tokens, once you purchase the tokens, you play token for token. So your compounding impact is huge. So let's say if you, with us win 10 straight games on LeagiON versus a Players Lounge, your actual payout as a winner will be more than twice as much total. So that's one of the key reasons. Second reason is settlement. We're using blockchain technology for this. It's not a trading token. It's not really something that, for speculators. It's a simple fixed token that we're just using the technology for it. Currently, it's a Stellar technology. So you get the settlement within four seconds after the game's over. So it's basically seamless. Once the game's over, you get paid immediately.
Why do you need blockchain for this?
Because of all the features of the blockchain. It's transparency. It's a ledger. It's a point of exchange. There's just everything that we need is there. Like you don't want to use anything else. We could, but it's the best solution our tech developers found and said that would be the best. I mean, and it's completely safe as well. Also, the reach, right? So currently, for you to get paid, you have to have a PayPal account, because otherwise, where are you going to send the money? I mean, you can within the other solutions, you have to have a PayPal account.
So if you're not taking a percentage of the winnings, how are you monetizing this business? How are you making money?
Right. No, we are taking percentage. We're only taking percentage at the end, or only when you cash out.
Okay.
In reality, we're getting paid immediately. Once we bought our token, we got 100% price of that token. What we're leaving on our books is 90% of that price, because you can cash out at any point. We have to have that money on hand, so you get paid. But that 10% we recognize immediately. In fact, we don't even care if you play or not. As long as you have tokens in your wallet, as long as you bought those tokens, we're fine. We're already realized our gain. You just play as much as you want, gain as much as you want, not getting paid within our infrastructure, within our ecosystem. You're not getting paid. You don't pay any charges. So, enjoying this immense compounding impact. Winning, if you're losing, it doesn't really matter, charges or not. Also, one of the key reasons why we use blockchain is the reach. Right? PayPal, which are used by our competitors, they're losing out on a huge market. So let's say places like Nigeria, 200 million people, all of them avid gamers. Not all of them, obviously, but a huge chunk. They're avid players. Places like Turkey, 80 million people, a huge amount of gamers who'd love to play for money, have no access to it. Places like Ukraine, 30 plus million also. So, and this is just easy picking for us. This is gonna really help us scale immediately, just getting those guys on board. Also, one of the key reasons, there's more, but based on research done by Sport One, which is one of our shareholders, is a lot of those gamers, casual gamers, don't like to play for more than a couple of dollars here and there. Now, minimum wager for most of our competitors are no less than $2.5 to $5, and that's just because of the transaction cost per each transaction, because they have to settle each and every time. They work in cash environment, so if they don't settle, they don't get paid. So a lot of these guys like to play it for 25 cents, 50 cents, depending where you are. $2 is a lot of money in a lot of places. Within our ecosystem, considering we have no internal transaction costs, you can play for as little as 5 cents a game. So it's very casual. You can have as many games as you want. You can bet as much. It just makes stuff, just spice things up a little bit. And it takes seconds to initiate.
So to get around this, the blockchain aspect, that you don't, in theory, you could do some similar to what Venmo does, where they hold. So like I can transfer, if I have money in my Venmo account, I can continually transfer this money to people all over the place, and all it does is transfer the balance. Since there's no money actually leaving any bank accounts, there's no transaction costs. So the way I would recommend you doing this, and I'm just having a hard time seeing the true need for blockchain here, is you make your purchase, you get your tokens, but LeagiON is holding a large sum of money in escrow, and you just make the minimum withdrawal amount a high enough number to negate the transaction fee. That would be my recommendation there. I think when you start throwing in blockchain, you start to confuse people, and I think the markets you think you might be unlocking might not be large enough to counterbalance against the people that are pushed away from feeling like it's a blockchain platform. I think that's why. I think it's why companies like Players Lounge and stuff do well, because it's very simple. It's understood right from the beginning that I'm just going to put in $10 and have $10 or whatever it is minus the transaction fee, have $9, and then it's very simple. And there's no thought process in the back or thought in the back of my head that I need to understand how blockchain works or understand how cryptocurrencies are traded on a blockchain. So that is just my criticism there. I don't see the ultimate need at the end of the day to have blockchain as the underlying technology for your transactional system.
Well, what I'm trying to say is we never position ourselves as a blockchain company. People in where PayPal is available, not going to even, none of this is going to be mentioned. Once they open the account, they're just going to buy chips like in casino through PayPal. Nobody will know. Only the people who are interested, they will know they have a wallet attached, and that wallet could be used on open trading to like move our tokens and sell them and buy them to us for crypto. That's up to them. But people, they're just regular folks who know nothing about blockchain, who doesn't care to know and doesn't really want to know, and just there for gaming. Those just friends from work, wherever they might be, for them, it's going to be just as simple as going in on any of those games and buying like game items. That's it. You just pay and get that token. It's in your wallet. That's it.
And so I'm assuming your guys' thought process is your go-to-market strategy here is to be available everywhere day one. With only obviously FIFA is the original title that will be used, but you guys do want to be able to enter any market from the day the app's launched, and that is why you guys want to use this technology as well, because you don't want to hinder anybody from Nigeria or Ukraine or any of these other markets that are typically underserved from being able to join your platform. Am I understanding that correctly? You do want to be everywhere day one?
Yes, we want to be accessible at day one. Absolutely. We're not going to be marketing ourselves in Nigeria yet. We're going to be launching more likely than not, probably in Europe, in Germany, where FIFA is huge. And again, it's not, a choice of FIFA. It's somewhat arbitrary. It has quite a bit of a background, but it's a popular game. It's a huge exposure. We get a chance to, I personally talk to Bundesliga. I talked to some of the clubs in Germany, Wolfsburg, and it gives us necessary exposure. It's more of a marketing gimmick than actual accessing a huge market. If we were after bigger markets, we would have gone after bigger games. And FIFA is not even within the top 10. So it's what we're trying to do with FIFA and what we're trying to do with crypto. It doesn't mean that we want to do everything at once. And as far as market is concerned, as far as actual titles are concerned, as far as like covering gaming world, but we thought that FIFA would be a perfect starting point with a right caliber of exposure.
So, my last point on that before I have my last question is I would rethink the idea of using blockchain right off the bat and adding that complexity, especially if you're not going to be directly targeting the markets that the blockchain that you guys believe blockchain technology would unlock. I would stick to the markets that don't need blockchain from the beginning. That's just my final thought. Obviously, I have not done any very much research from your standpoint. I'm just giving you that's just my first thought. I think it'll allow you to focus better. But my last question is why Xbox? Why is this the first market you want to go after? There's more people who play mobile, more people play PC. PS4s have outsold Xbox. It's like why is this the market you want to start, especially when the application itself is mobile? I would love to hear your thought process around why Xbox.
Sure. Easy. Lack of resources, and Xbox Microsoft has best documentations around their APIs and around a lot of things that they do. Just less research. easier to gain, and they are the most desperate. I mean, we've talked to some people in Microsoft, and they're just after companies like ourselves. They want to get their foot in on early stage gamers, and they right now spending hundreds of millions of dollars doing so. And they are ready to partner with any companies that can bring them access and environment, help them to build an environment to bring that that type of players into the mix, because those are the guys who are playing more, buying more consoles, updating, buying more in-game items, all of those things. And they're very much behind on this, and they have this, stripe currently to move forward. And we know we secured with them on technology aspects. They just don't have any issues with that. In fact, they encourage it. And if we need any help, we can always reach out. And the documentations around their APIs is much, much clearer. We tried them all, and it's just easier for us to execute and have that as an initial entry.
And sorry, I actually have one last question. This at the end of the day is Microsoft's decision, not FIFA's. Why is EA going to allow you to monetize off of their game without them getting a cut, or at the same time without Microsoft getting a cut? Why? I'm typically, when it came to when you look at it, skills on mobile, it allows for a new revenue stream for mobile games that want to add a competitive aspect. What is not stopping EA from just ending your guys' access to using their title on your guys' platform?
Theoretically, they could, and we ran it by lawyers in US and lawyers in Germany if there's anything they can do to cut us off. And based on ranking on ownership of IP, and based on what has been posted in a public API library, they really can't. And there's no precedence for that, and there's no need for them to cut us off, because we're really not doing anything, just engaging people more in gaming. So we're actually helping them out a lot, and legally they really have no leverage. I mean, we talked to the we have a law firm, Blackstone is a shareholder in our company. We're a pretty stronghold in crypto and technology market, and they said in US they just can't go after. It's impossible. We brought this in Germany, and one of our shareholders is early shareholders is Sport 1, whose legal team also looked into it, and they feel comfortable that we'll have absolutely no issues going forward with that.
Cool.
Got it. That's everything for me.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Unfortunately, we're a bit out of time, Alex. We have to get the next person in. But
no,
for anyone,
sorry about that.
That's all right. So for anyone who's watching this now across LinkedIn and across Twitch TV, where can people follow you and your company online to track your progress as you go through your alpha into your beta and into your launch?
Right. You guys can follow us on Twitter and Legion at Legion Team. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and any kind of feedback I'd love to hear. And we're always welcome. And again, thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming. Taylor, Chris, first pitch in the books, second one coming up pretty soon. I found some of the questions interesting from you, Taylor, around the explanation of blockchain, and I'd be interested to hear from both of your thoughts on this. I personally feel that anytime someone starts to put blockchain in, like Taylor was saying, it becomes too confusing of a fact, maybe not necessarily just for the users, but to explain to the investors. And then it turns into a 45-minute discussion on why blockchain, what is it, why should it be involved, and that kind of stuff. Is that part of why you said the things you said, Taylor, about moving away from blockchain?
Yeah, it seems like the majority of the time it's an unnecessary complexity that doesn't. I mean, so Alex had a good reason for why he wanted to use it at some point, and that is the cross-border expansion of his platform, and it makes sense. There's if PayPal's not available in a large market, I get it, but For me, I'm always on the side of let's start simple. Let's take over the European market or the US market where PayPal is available. And then if we see and feel a need to expand to markets that may not have access to whatever service we're using, then you start exploring something like blockchain. I will say, to any other startups watching, the majority of investors at this point, unless they are exclusively blockchain investors, it almost becomes just a buzzword. And I just don't. At this point, I don't know if gaming needs blockchain as much as we would like it to need. And that's kind of where I get worried when people are, you become a blockchain company and not a gaming company when you would be much more successful as a gaming company.
Yeah, and I'd be keen to hear from you, Chris, in regards. You asked about the way they make money, essentially, and they were saying that a lot of their differences with some of the other platforms, you need to pay down 10% every single time you transact, which is obviously hard because you'll end up running into $0 no matter what because you're throwing away 10% every time. But do you think that there's enough fat in there for them to cut off if they're only doing when people are taking out the money? Does that make things a little too lumpy? I'd be interested in getting your thoughts.
I mean, I guess I'm slightly lucky here because obviously I've worked with Alex, so I've seen the financials, and I do know that the way it's structured, it does make sense. I guess I'd sort of just like to comment a bit on the blockchain side of things, because I do agree with Taylor completely. Specifically, when you're speaking with investors, it really complicates things, and you really need to have a real core reason why you're using that technology and why it's completely necessary. And I do think that it maybe isn't. I don't think it's necessary at this point. I think it will be necessary in the future for what they're trying to do. So I would also say, like Taylor says, that Alex should maybe look at doing something that's simpler, sort of like the whole KISS thing, keep it simple, stupid. And I think sometimes you do have to think very simple, especially when you're first looking to connect with those first customers, because those first customers, when you get those, then they're your biggest advocates, but you have to get them on first. To build that scale.
Yeah, as soon as someone creates an account and has to deposit their money, and then the first thing they read is this transaction is secure on the blockchain. That's like I would say that is going to automatically lower your conversion rate right off the bat. Maybe not by a lot, but it's going to confuse people. They might think that when they want to withdraw money that it requires some sort of some sort of digital wallet or some sort of understanding of how cryptocurrencies work, and you might just push people away that don't understand it. And that's it's one of those things where you can, if you can build a successful product first and get traction from a very simple product. Like I actually like that the KISS acronym. I've never heard that before, but I like that. And you start simple and then you can add blockchain on top where it's like, hey, if you would like to use it, we offer it now, instead of, hey, everything from day one is going to be supported on the blockchain.
Yeah, maybe this changes in a few years as blockchain catches up. I mean, I think we're all very excited about what it can do. It's not there yet. It will be a part of our lives, but it's just not at that point yet.
Yeah, fantastic. So next person we have up to have a chat to us is Massoud from GameBuddy. So GameBuddy describes themselves, and this sounds like it's fairly up your alley, Taylor. They describe themselves as leveling up the interaction of game streaming. They provide live stream missions, giving viewers a voice that lets them feel like they're directly involved in the stream. Each mission is related to the gameplay of the streamer to empower viewers to influence the gameplay. Additionally, the streamer can more easily grow their audience and also monetize based off it. So we'll get Massoud in here. And for this one, I'm going to be really interested to see how they onboard streamers onto their platform, how they can actually convince streamers to take some of their time away from their busy schedules to actually jump on something new.
You just took my first question.
Oh, no. There you go. Well, you can ask it, and he'll think you're smart. That's fine.
And also how, streamers have a lot to manage already, and you're going to give them something else also to manage. So, humans can only do so much, but let's see.
Yeah, fantastic. Massoud, welcome. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, guys? How's it going?
Good.
I just
realized that I gave an introduction to the wrong person, and then
I know that.
So we're gonna have to move you to the last person. I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. Niklas, welcome, mate. I'm sorry for getting the names wrong, getting you confused, but we've got the right company, and we've already been asking questions without you even here. So take it away, introduce yourself, and let's get cracking.
Yeah, so hi, I'm actually Niklas from GameBuddy, and like Chris said, we're leveling up, or we're bringing the stream interaction to the next level. And right now, I'm sure all of you know about the streaming wars right now, that the big platforms out there try to race for talents, and they're outbidding themselves with huge sums. But we actually think that all of these platforms are broken in some kind of a way, and they're broken in their interaction methods. And that's quite funny because like we think that interaction is one of the most important things for live streaming. And I think you, Taylor, described it pretty well. Right now, people can only chat to interact with their idols. And the chat is either like completely overcrowded so that the message disappears in like 1 second, or it's completely empty and nobody uses it. Or the third way, or the second way actually, is donating money to the streamer just to see their reaction and get to interact with them, which kind of shows the desperation already, like paying real money just to be in contact with someone and interacting. And that's why we decided to bring the interaction between the streamer and the viewer to the next level based on live missions. So basically how you can imagine that is that viewers can see missions that are related to the game context of the streamer, and they can then suggest them to the streamer. And the streamer sees what his viewers want with the help of an in-game overlay, and this way knows what his viewers want him to do. So basically, viewers are then enabled to influence the gameplay directly and are thus more engaged to the stream while they're watching it. Ultimately, streamers and viewers get points for the missions once they're completed, and then they are ranked in a leaderboard, which then helps them to additionally grow the audience or to unlock prizes for the viewers. And to do all this, we're actually tracking the live game data of every streamer to properly suggest and validate the missions in a live context. We actually do think that right now is the best time to start with this, not only because it's been a huge problem all along, but also because we're kind of indirectly profiting from the streaming wars I was mentioning at the beginning, because we're starting the whole thing by building on top of the big platforms that are out there right now. You already mentioned extensions. So basically, whenever a platform promotes a talent, we kind of benefit from that as well, because they can still use our extension while being promoted by the platform without like breaking the contract with them. And of course, like once talent is promoted, that's always good for the companies that are in direct contact with them, right? So actually, we found out about the idea while we built our old platform, which was a social network for gamers, in which we had about 160,000 users. And there in the user data, we actually saw that like live missions combined with streaming lead to a huge engagement by users. And that's why we shifted our focus actually and started with this new platform. And right now, like we're really early in. Right now, we're testing with about 20 streamers, which all have from 1,000 to 50,000 followers. And we're developing everything in very, very close contact with them because we really want to like generate value for them and also for their viewers. So we're really dependent on their feedback and also the feedback of their viewers, of course. Ultimately, we can also think to like start with these extensions, but then ultimately build our own streaming platform once we gain trust and once people from both sides actually saw the value in this interaction method. And then on top of like giving value to the streamer, we also want to help them monetize additionally. And of course, we also want to earn some money ourselves. I guess that's like natural. And we do both of these things through the usage of missions. So for example, users can boost missions with real money to ensure that the streamers really sees them. And if it's completed, like the transaction gets over to the streamer and then the revenue is shared. Or they can, for example, also suggest custom missions for real money. Yeah, and on top of that, in the future, we can also think about putting this whole thing into a live betting context, where we actually have one very, very big betting partner already that is interested in this already. But that's more of a future thing, like use the data we generate and put that into a different context then. Yeah. So far, we raised a little bit of money, about 130,000, and are right now actually in looking for angels and micro VCs to partner up with us that are specifically having knowledge in the gaming or influencer space, so kind of can serve as a sparring partner for us. And in total, we're looking to raise up to 500,000 euros, and out of this 150,000 is already secured through a grant that doesn't have to be paid back from the government, actually. Yeah, I think that wraps it up pretty good. Yeah, you already have the first question, so let's just start with it, and I'm happy to hear the questions and also feedback, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess I'll parrot the same question that we asked before again, is which is basically from Taylor, myself, and Chris Day, is how do you convince streamers to actually use this? They've got so much going on. There's brand deals flying around. There's Facebook trying to buy their platforms. There's viewers that are sending them DMs all day vying for their attention. So how do you gain that attention above everyone else?
Yeah. I think that's a really, really big part of our business, like convincing the streamers, right? And I think one of the most important things is that the streamer doesn't have to do anything different than he did before. Like he just needs to download one software, so there's like a little bit of effort into that, but then he can stream like he did before. He can see the missions in an in-game overlay, which he also can deactivate if he doesn't want to see it. And with this little effort, he already has the possibility to engage his viewers even more, and also have another monetization stream, which is, of course, especially important for streamers that are not like the A-tier streamers right now. So that's also what we're targeting right now for the early stage, the like middle to early stage streamers.
Who is making the like the challenges? So obviously every challenge doesn't translate across every type of game.
Yeah.
Is the audience just typing it up and then figuring out how, if you're in agreement, or do you guys just look at like what game they're playing and say we have 10 or 15 pre-made templates kind of situation?
Yeah. So right now we're actually exploring the second opportunity. So right now we're only supporting League of Legends just to get into the market, and we then have this live data generation, which basically keeps up to the context of the game, and then we can suggest missions or challenges that are fitting to the context of the game, so that it's like really, really fitting to what's actually happening, because like games also don't want to have the game experience be destroyed by stuff that really doesn't fit in the context right now. And then we're also thinking about custom missions, but that's more of a maybe of a monetization strategy we could go for then.
And then on top of that so if these challenges are just like do X, Y, or Z, is this something you guys? Is this just something that the streamer just does and the audience just is okay with it, or are you guys verifying that the streamer actually completed something and was able to do it? And is there revenue from this challenge? Is it determined by them completing the challenge, or is it just as soon as the people donate or whatever, or put money into the challenge, they get paid? How is that working out?
Yeah, so we're basically guaranteeing like we're validating every mission or challenge with our live data generation, so we can see if like in a real live context we can see if streamers are completing the challenge / mission, and thus can also like validate it completely automatically. But like every challenge or mission itself is free at the start, so like the points are generated more of a gaming or gamified context, and then you have the additional opportunity to boost them with real money, and then we more think of something that the money is just being transacted if the streamer actually completes the mission, because we feel like otherwise the streamer might be under a lot of pressure to actually do the challenge, because people paid for it, and if he then decides he's not going to do it, like viewers might get angry. So we're more exploring for this opportunity right now.
Got it.
And did you say as a starting point, you're actually going to first be an extension on Twitch and the other live streaming platforms, and then moving to your next platform?
Yes.
So give me a sort of timeline for how long you think you'll be operating as an extension and then moving to your standalone platform, and what would trigger that move? What would you be looking for?
Yeah. So right now, our timeline is basically that we plan to switch working on the own streaming platform in about a year. So we give ourselves time for 1 year to kind of get going with extensions, and then switching the whole thing to our platform.
And sort of the question, so at the starting point, you're almost building on top of Twitch or the existing live streams. Is the defensibility, or Twitch going to go after that, after you guys for this? How are you playing that? How have you sort of addressed those concerns?
Yeah, I think like Twitch does experiment with stuff. So right now we see these channel points, I think, which were also like introduced by an extension first. At least I know some extensions that were playing around with it. But what we actually think is a little more complicated is this whole live data generation stuff, which is not something that Twitch is just going to copy in an instant. So if they see that it's really working and people are playing for it, and they can see that bits are being used in these missions or challenges, I think it's more likely that they're actually thinking about acquiring the knowledge right away, because the community is also attached to it already. So we think that like them just copying it is like the risk of it is not so high right now.
So you're already seeing exit opportunities in an acquisition?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Like I think right now in the streaming wars, like every platform is racing for something that other platforms don't have. So I think like that's also a good incentive to actually think about an acquisition there. But it's not something that we like completely just go to. But nonetheless, like if it goes really well and it goes viral and lots of people use it, we can see that it might be interesting for streaming platforms to acquire the knowledge.
Definitely.
So why are you focusing any of your time on building a streaming platform as well, instead of just focusing all your time on building out the most engaging extension?
Yes, we're actually doing that. So right now, like the streaming platform thing is more of a vision, because we know that at some point it's really unlikely to have a huge like revenue stream just by building extensions, because most likely like the platform is going to take a share of it, and then the streamer of course also takes his share. So we think that at one point, if we want to build a very profitable business, like we have to take that step at one point. But that's why I said we're giving ourselves time for at least a year to build the extension and to make it as good as possible. So during that time, we're not working on the streaming platform or anything else. That's just like at one point, we just think about switching it.
And what are some of the better insights that you guys have gotten from these tests or pilots with I think you said you have some streamers with anywhere from 1,000 followers to 50,000. What are the insights that you guys have gotten there that you think are going to help you guys push this business forward?
Yeah, so actually like the first insight we got is that people like at first we started everything in an own platform with embedded streams and the chat also embedded. And the first thing we actually saw is that like building an extension or building a way to directly play it on the site itself is very important, because people are kind of afraid to try it out, afraid to leave the stream. So that's one very, very important learning. And then also how people are playing it and how streamers are also reacting to it is something that was really, really awesome to see. And funnily, what we found out is that actually sometimes if the mission is not 100% fitting, that might even be good, because it actually like creates funny moments where the streamers complain about, oh, I'm not going to do that, and then like people react like crazy to it and are cheering them on or just like trolling them a little. So that's also something that we're going after, definitely.
Awesome. Oh shoot, I just threw out my question. Chris, if you have one, you can ask.
Yeah, no worries.
I literally just forgot my eyes. I was listening to that.
Shit, now I've forgotten mine.
Oh my god.
Blanking.
I guess I've got a question.
Sorry.
That's right. What's your defensibility besides the first mover's advantage? Do you have any specific IP, anything you can paint, and any special whiz coders that other people or knowledge that other people might have access to?
Yeah. So I think like our background, also working at this like social network for gamers. With our background there, we really learned how to work with in-game data. So I think that's a very, very important part. And then like this whole data generation in a live context, I think that itself is like super complicated. And then, like you mentioned, the first mover advantage is also a thing, or the network effect in general, like that we get streamers on, and as soon as we get streamers on, like that also adds defensibility as well.
And one other question is, there's so many social medias coming out all the time forever, and now it seems that there's so many gaming social medias coming out. You've pivoted away from that. Can you give me a quick synopsis? Why doesn't it work?
I think I still believe that it works, but like we failed to find a way to retain users in a long-term way. Our main functionality at that time was a matchmaking thing that suggested people that really fit to each other and then like start into the game. But then we had this graveyard problem. Like all games have friend lists, so once they found like 5 to 10 friends, they didn't need us anymore. And then we tried experiments with news, that people could share news and all that stuff. But this news topic in general is something that's fairly hard to do because it really depends on the content that you're able to share. And right now, I think the only content that's like interesting is either videos from the game, so like highlight clips and stuff like that, or like esports news or news from other platforms. So I think it can only work in a curated way, like that you have people writing articles and stuff. Like I think that's the only way that this news feed kind of works. And then there's like loads of esports sites that already do that. So I think that was the most problem. Like the type of content is really important, and it's really hard to find out what the correct type of content actually is.
Chris, Taylor, we got time for one more question before we have to move on.
Yeah. So I mean, I also handle esports and sports betting at Lead Sports. So I do have to ask about the betting and what you're thinking about there, because I think that could make this very interesting.
Yeah.
If there's a 2-sided or a 3-sided element to this.
Yeah. So in general, I think like live betting in esports is one of the major things that betting companies tried to crack in the last few years, and it never quite worked because esports is so fast paced. So what we think we can provide here is that based on this whole mission context, we kind of generate data and knowledge when which event is going to happen, and also how likely it is to happen. And based on this, we can learn how to properly suggest live bets at the right time, and then also with the right odds at the right time. So that's the thoughts we have in this direction.
Great.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks, Niklas. Thanks for coming on, mate. And for anyone watching here today, where can they follow you and your company online?
We're basically on all social networks like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then also over our website, of course. Or you just type in GameBuddy at Google. I think you'll also find us.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, man.
Thanks a lot.
Taylor, Chris, thoughts?
I thought that was. I think it's very interesting. I think that obviously fits the theme that I was discussing earlier today, and it offers a more engaging and a different type of viewership experience that is currently available on Twitch. Especially, I do really like that the monetization aspect isn't a necessary aspect to engage. There's a system of voting in place that recommends certain challenges that anybody can choose, and then you can bump them with paying money, and I think that is a great incentive to spend money. But I do really like that it starts out as just a audience and streamer engagement tool, and allows people to have a little more fun.
Yeah, and I think we said it at the beginning, it doesn't always have to be about the monetization. The engagement is very important. And I think it's very engaging when it's also free to play, which is another thing I'm seeing in real sports betting that's going to be very prevalent. So I think the free to play element of engagement is very interesting also.
Yeah, okay. And adding a little bit onto the betting stuff they were talking about, unicorn.com is a client of ours, an esports wagering company. And they've got a streamer betting service that might be something interesting. And I didn't ask if that's the person they're talking to, but essentially you can use their platform. I can't in Australia, don't have licenses here, but you can bet on a streamer. So you can watch them live, and they might be playing Apex Legends, and you've got certain odds for them to win, to reach the top 10, to get 20 kills, what have you, that kind of stuff too. So, if that's seamless integration, I think that's part of what sounds really interesting to me anyway, allowing the viewers to do it without going anywhere else, and allowing the streamer to do it without going anywhere else as well. I guess my main concern really is what's stopping stream elements from plugging this into what they already have, or someone like that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, how do you draw an audience away from their existing Twitch platform? I mean, some of these streamers, I know they're saying they're going after the new streamers, but I don't see how you get the existing streamers with audiences and communities that have lived on there for years. They have their emotes, they have their groups. Moving that, I think, that's the question I have with these types of startups. And I've seen one or two of these overlays looking to then do a standalone platform. And that's the thing that I keep getting stuck on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Chris. I'm not a fan of reinventing the wheel, but you can innovate on top of it and create something that can be built on the platform, but you don't need to build your own to create something like this to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely think it's got some legs. All right, so the next person we're going to add this time is the real Massoud, but not from GameBuddy, from Ladwork. So he describes Ladwork as a seed stage company that's a social and service platform with a community and AI-driven game improvement features and various B2B services. He says the problem they're solving is one that affects almost every gamer, the creation of service-driven community that focuses on gaming needs at all times, matchmaking, statistics, and cross-channel connection. So we'll add him in. Welcome, Massoud. How are you?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Appreciate the invitation, Chris. Thank you so much.
No problem. Good to have you in on the right time this time with the right company. So we've got 5-10 minutes for you to let us know about yourself. Take it away.
All right, let's make that happen. My name is Massoud. I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Ladwork. Guy, let's talk about a certain kind of situation. We have about 2.2 billion gamers out there in the world. Millions of these young rookies been moving under the radar right now. And then you have another 1,000 institutions, whether it's teams or brands out there that are looking for the right fit that they can find to be represented in this entertaining world of gaming right now. On top of that, gaming is turning into a major lifestyle, and the demand of social expression, exchange with like-minded individuals, and game improvement is steadily growing. So, what are we actually doing? Here's the plan. We're going to give you a social platform. Yeah, against all odds right now after all the talk on platforms. But we're going to give you a platform where you as a gamer can create your unique gaming ID profile. You can link your publisher's favorite games to your profile, so you have in real life stats visualized on your profile, and get in touch with people. We're going to add scouting and recruitment tools, as well as analytics, improvement, and management features, all that based on machine learning APIs and smart contracts. Our target groups are defined throughout the whole gaming landscape. Like, we're talking about casual gamers, pro gamers, team managers, coaches, but also brand representatives, whether they are marketing or brand managers and looking for someone that they can probably sign. The probably most interesting feature that I would like to talk with you guys about is our game improvement feature, which we see as the first major feature that we're going to drop in early spring. So we're currently in the closed beta phase. We have already deployed the Fortnite and Clash Royale APIs into our platform. And you can already search. FIFA is being implemented by this week, and a video player on your profile where you can highlight clips, but I'm going to get back to this by the end. So the game improvement feature is going to be split off in 2 phases. The first one is going to be the community-driven feature. That means just imagine a SoundCloudish environment where you can up your gameplay, and in the ranking from the top to bottom, players can rate your gameplay and help you to improve a better game. This is going to be rewarded as well, because we all love rewarding systems, especially in the ecosystem that we are moving right now. The second one is going to be the artificial intelligence-driven game improvement feature. That means we're going to use the video data that we collected in the first year through the community-driven feature to feed the algorithm. On top of that, we truly believe that the community-driven feature is a major key aspect that is going to help us to get people exchanging on the platform, because right now we probably don't see the major demand for a social platform in gaming, as we have the big dogs like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. But we think we're definitely moving into this direction, and it just needs to be the right connection of services, features, and the social component to make that thing of a platform happen right now. And right now, as you all know, we have a lot of competitors out there that are working on this. So this is our major plan to make that happen. And our revenue streams are going to be the freemium membership, the transaction fees, and by the end of the day, of course, the advertisement feature. So we've been one of the participators of the FC Cologne Accelerator program, where we could generate a lot of great contacts in the sport tech world, worldwide actually. And we have a very, very interesting marketing activation prepared for March. It's actually the first time I'm talking about it. So we're going to drop the open beta in March, and we have a pool of influencers of celebrity camps that are gonna participate in the Street Masters Charity Cup. This is a FIFA 20 Volta tournament where celebrities gonna recruit 2 of their fans out of their community via social media to participate in that tournament. Of course, these guys gotta register themselves on Ladwork and upload their highlight video in Volta, why they should be the right fit for their team. And by now we're talking about a decent, little more than 41 million unique contacts on Instagram for these 6 influencers and celebrities. And yeah, I'm very happy to share the infos within the next week, step by step. So this is us, and I'm looking forward to answer your questions, guys.
I'd personally like to hear more about this the management tool and analytics aspect to it. I'm a little confused on what that is, if this is a social network. So could you dive a little deeper into exactly what you're trying to accomplish with that?
Yes, absolutely, sir. So probably more imagine of kind of a LinkedIn of gaming. I mean, we have a demand of organization within organizations, whether it's the planning of tournaments, whether it's the training plans, whether it's data analysis. And we think that collecting these data, offering these software solutions to professional teams or even semi-professional teams is a need that could be implemented into a platform and serve as a great service within the esports.
And how do you get these teams to buy in? What is the big selling point here for them to join this platform, get their team onboarded, and start actually using it?
Yeah, that's a great question, though. So as I just mentioned, we've been in this soccer club accelerator. We, first of all, been heavily focused on FIFA And I mean, we're a soccer nation, so we registered that there is a huge interest in esport, especially in FIFA, but there is no clue about how to get organized, how to recruit players. I mean, how to even find a coach or a manager in your environment. So this is like a big question point that started off and that led us to the point, as long as there is nobody really solving this problem for the soccer industry, this is the perfect entrance for us to start off. But by the time within the last 6 months, this kind of developed pretty fast, so that Fortnite got a way more prioritized topic in our plannings right now. Nevertheless, the whole soccer industry kind of implementation for management services and analysis of data is the major selling point for this.
And then why are you using game APIs and not just having like a Steam ID or a gamer tag or something that just kind of brings in all this data naturally?
Well, I mean, when we're using the game APIs, we actually get the data transferred into the profile page. I'm not sure if I really get your question. Can you probably repeat that once again?
So like I can, when I want to look at my Apex stats or my Fortnite stats, I just need to use my my gamer tag, and I'm assuming they're also probably just tied into the game's API themselves. But you're limiting yourself. So like if you launch with the support of 4 games, there's not much value for somebody who plays any games outside of those 4 to join the platform. So how do you make sure you can? I guess the better question is, how do you make sure you can support a large number of games without having to go into? Is there any other way than having to have access to each and every individual game's API?
No, not at all. Of course not. I mean, you have publishers that are pretty cool and make no big deal out of using the APIs, and you have publishers that make a big deal out of it, as a matter of fact. And for these cases, we use manual solutions with improvement and verified functions. But to make a long story short, of course, at the end of the day, you got to have as many games as possible. And we don't see the game API implementation to the platform as the major selling point. It's more of a part of the fundament that needs to be there to build on that. Like imagine right now we have Fortnite, Clash Royale, and FIFA. And if you have people that are just playing Counter-Strike and you want them to come on the platform, first and foremost, of course, you have to have some kind of overview on the statistics before you can dive deeper into community-driven game improvement features, right? So by the end of the day, the goal is to add as many games as possible, of course. But yeah.
Do you have a timeline for these games, or any plan that is public so people do know, or is it just going to kind of happen as you guys have the time and resources to add them on?
Well, we just did the soft transition of the external coders to our first own web developers, to our first 2 web developers that we have in the team right now. These are expanding the pool of game APIs, continuing right now with FIFA, Counter-Strike, and League of Legends. And we don't have the certain timeline to let you know how many games will be in by June, but we plan with 2 games at least for every month, starting off in March for the open beta.
Got it. That's all I got, Chris.
Yeah, so the chicken and the egg question, right? So I think you have 2 major groups you have to go after: the talent pool of potential players looking to be professionals, and then the managers and the coaches running the teams, right? So who do you go after first, and why, and how do you get both of them onto your platform?
Great question, Chris. Of course, the gamers first, always first. I mean, we're talking. This was actually the reason why we got into the whole game improvement kind of thing, and why we're using the community-driven feature phase at first, because all this that is happening right now, all the hype around gaming entertainment, esports wouldn't be there if the gamer wasn't there, right? So there is definitely the focus on the gamer first, but we think that to go in hand with the development of the business services in the B2B section is definitely possible. I mean, we live in it right now, but if you would ask me where the focus right now is on, I would definitely say to get the critical mass, the players.
Okay, and so when you say game improvement feature, I guess you're talking about like an automated coaching tool? that's going to be
This
developed?
is the second phase. Yeah, this is the AI phase. So the first phase is like you can upload like in a SoundCloud a video clip. There it's an audio clip, and then in the timeline you can add your comment, your improvement comment for the player, and it's always in the ranking from the top to the bottom. So we just can reduce the trolling a little bit, and for every sensible improvement rate from your side, you get rewarded with coins that you can use on the platform for certain kind of services. And the other question that you made in the beginning, like how we plan to get these people on the platform, for example, through this first marketing activation. I mean, I have a strong marketing entertainment background. I used to work in the music industry for a long time. And 2 years ago, we brought in multi-platinum German rap stars Kollega and Farid Bang into esports, 2 major German gangster rappers. And it was about a few months ago where we recognized, hey man, we have this network of musicians, of entertainers in general. How can we use them by giving not just them a benefit to have their gaming activation, but also to get a reach on our platform. And this celebrity charity tournament that we are producing in the mid of March, which is an online streaming tournament, is the first step for us to make that network work for us.
Okay, and so on the game improvement feature, the coaching, I guess going into that more, I've seen a lot of startups doing that already, and already at the point of the automated coaching tools. With your platform, have you ever thought about maybe, is it? I feel like you're doing a lot. Do you maybe drawing down the focus into that one particular area, or maybe staying away from that, staying as the LinkedIn of gaming, and then maybe finding a way to partner with one of these up and coming development game improvement companies?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we recognize the competitors. We see the automated game improvement companies, and we also see the huge development of social media platforms. And as you probably remember, I just mentioned that the focus on the social component right now is not the biggest one. We see a strong demand on connecting the community and giving them a sensible feature. So this is why this community-driven feature should bring the first interaction on the platform for us. But to join forces with other companies without doing too much at once is definitely a smart move. Why not? For sure.
And that's all I got.
Cool. I think my main question really is, what's special about the platform that allows people to stay on it? I think, Niklas mentioned before that they can get accounts, but they're not sticky. We've had, say, Esports Mogul on before, who've, according to their public filings, has been spending millions of dollars on marketing, getting hundreds of thousands of accounts, but never being able to keep people. Understanding that your platform's slightly different, I'm really interested in learning from you about what's the major stickiness factor.
I absolutely agree with Nick, and I think if you have this one unique feature that can probably be already in use by someone else, like, I mean, let's look at Instagram or Snapchat, for example, as a popular example, this can make the difference. It took a while until we recognized that we probably don't need the social media platform in gaming right now, because we can't mess with Instagram and co. But we truly believe that a community-driven feature in a platform like ours is something that can make a difference, because people, cannot just rate themselves, but they can exchange on all sides of this aspect, like how can I get better in this game? And we also see a lot of competitors that are, or at least a few competitors that are charging you pretty early when you start to use game improvement features. So this is also a point. I think this is nothing that you should monetize way too early. This is something, give them a hand first. I mean, you can't charge a 13-year-old to pay you $10 a month to use the AI, but it's probably not the smartest move to do this in the beginning. Give them a more authentic, a more reachable feature, and then think about monetizing later.
Cool. So if the people watching want to follow you online or your company, where can they do so?
Yeah, sure thing. I think you can see my link right there. You can connect with us via our website, but you can also reach out on LinkedIn and all regular social media platforms, of course.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining, mate.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.
No problem. Hey, Chris, one thing that you said, which I see all the time in esports and gaming, and I used to do this way too much, and now I probably do it maybe just too much, is focusing on too many things at once. Is that something super common in just gaming, just esports, or is that startups as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's startups as a whole, definitely, but really seeing it a lot in esports. And I mean, that would be my advice to a lot of startups is focus, 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 because I think the interesting thing about esports is, you know, like I spoke about before, when you find that great founder, the best founders come from it. And there's a lot of gamers that realize there's a lot of problems with this space and a lot of ways to make it better. Because of that, there's a lot of people working on congruent stuff. So I think to really stand out in gaming, you have to focus and do one thing very well.
Yeah. What about you, Taylor? What do you think?
Yeah, this kind of goes into the similar conversation that we had about LeagiON, or the first startup that pitched today, was that there's more benefit to focusing on a singular factor and getting the stickiness from there, and then instead of creating a large web that you believe you can expand into, allowing your users to basically tell you what they want and build from there. I do see a big problem with a lot of startups is that they believe they know what the market wants, and some people are right sometimes, but a lot of times it just allow the market to tell you what's right, and that just begins with figuring out that one specific value you can add to somebody's life and building off of that. It's the majority. Almost every startup starts extremely small and is very good at what they do, even if that is not a massive revenue generator, or it doesn't have a crazy large market, but they allow themselves to be the best at that, create user retention and stickiness, and then figure out exactly what those users want on top of what you've already built. And with every layer on top of it, you bring in more potential users, or your market gets slightly bigger, and you keep on iterating and keep on changing, and maybe slight pivots here and there, and then you have a massive product that everybody wants because you've built it based on what they've told you they want.
And it's pretty much what you're describing is like building a minimum viable product, right? Building out one thing as a skeleton, throwing out in the market, seeing what happens, and then you just move from there. And for me, my company started off doing mentoring and group mentoring, and we basically don't do that at all anymore.
Yeah, there's it's interesting because it's a lot easier to come back from throwing out an MVP and being wrong than it is from throwing out a massive product and being wrong, because the amount of resources it takes to build something with what you believe is every feature everybody wants can take time and money, and then you figure out it's not actually what people wanted, or it was just too much, and now you have to almost start from scratch. So I mean, it's better to fail a bunch of small times than fail one big time.
Yeah, I think so. And look, for anyone, because there's a comment on Twitch and stuff as well, watching, a book that helped me a lot with exactly what Taylor's talking about is by Eric Ries, Raes, and it's called The Lean Startup. It's got a lovely blue cover on it, and it explains a lot of this stuff about, just spending the minimum amount of money possible and even the minimum amount of time and making a bare bones skeleton product or project or feature, throw it out there and just do some testing on the market, and they'll give you some honest advice about how to do it. Because like you were saying, Taylor, imagine you build a whole social network with 20 different features. It takes you 2 years and $3 million of development to do so. You launch it with a $500,000 marketing campaign and no one likes any of it. It could be very hard.
Yeah, and I think the key word there is testing, right? As much as you might think you understand that problem completely, you don't understand the solution yet. And the market and your first customers are going to give you that solution and help you refine that solution.
Yeah, fantastic.
And you'll have a lot easier time raising more capital if you're able to go to, even if you failed and you don't have a current product, but you can go to investors and say, my research says X, Y, and Z. I've tested it. This is what my feedback is. We were wrong at first, but we know we need to build this because everyone's asking for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some massive there's massive advantages in failures, right? Like, we created an influencer agency called Shade. We put in internal funding into that. Turned out to be a failure, but we learned so much information that, if nothing else, I'm now selling as consultancy. So sure, we haven't made back all the money we invested, but we'll probably get there. It's just direct one-to-one, just being like, hey, we were idiots because of this. Don't do that. but do this part, because there's always some good buts that come out of it, right? If nothing else, you found a good developer, you found a good co-founder, you found investors that trust you and you can work with. You might have found a good URL or anything like that. You can extract some kind of knowledge out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's add everybody back in here. Welcome, guys. So first time pitching online for all of you. How was the experience?
Pretty awesome. I appreciated all the feedback, and was kind of interesting to see you talking about the startup once we were gone. That's something you normally don't have, but really appreciated it, and I think like every one of us got really, really good feedback to move forward.
Yeah, that's good. I wanted to ask, and I guess this is an open question for everyone, probably more towards the founders. You're all going through raising capital at the moment. You've all raised some capital in the past. How do you see the market around esports and with investment interest as a whole? Has it become easier over time? Has it become harder? Is there more interest? Are people more cautious, less cautious than they ever used to be? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts.
I think for us, it hasn't been, we've only been doing it for a couple of months. We just finished our MVP mid-November, and December was pretty slow. Nobody's around. So I personally find a lot of interest. Like it's pretty dynamic. People are asking a lot of questions. There are people who are reaching out to us directly, people that I barely know. It's just through a network of friends or people I met in the past few months. Huge advantage of taking part in Lead Accelerator program. Enormous, really. It's really thriving, I think. I'm not sure how it was before, so it's kind of hard for me to really, because our initial idea with our product was actually building something for real sports where people can actually engage in. So building a, blockchain technology just used for developing a kind of like LinkedIn network with the athletes that can reach out to each other, challenge each other to a game, and develop tournaments and teams and stuff like that. We built that and we launched that on Apple, our first app, and that's how we got to Lead. And they just said, look, but I think there's more need in, and it's more quantitative. Like we can have some numbers around the market for the gaming, and that's how we got here. So for us, for the past few months, it's been incredible, and we were glad we made that pivot. And by the way, I want to thank Taylor for excellent feedback. Chris, obviously, we know each other for a while, so he knows us a little better. But and it made me think a lot about certain things that actually Chris brought out a number of times before, and now that I hear it from Taylor, we can definitely simplify our approach.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. How about for your other guys? How are you seeing the capital raising market? Because I guess it's also hard, right? Because for me as a startup founder as well, not only do you have so much work to do in making a company, finding the product market fit, hiring people, but then also you have the extra stress of trying to monetize throughout that period, and the extra stress of trying to take money from someone else as an investor or from an investor.
Yeah, okay. You start, Massoud.
No, you go ahead. It's all good.
Okay, for me personally, I think it's also a matter of regions a little bit. I think like Germany, in my case, like still has some problems with gaming in general, because they're not quite onto it. But I can definitely feel that it's changing right now in the market, which is mostly because of the huge multiples of esports teams, I think. So we just hope that they continue to raise money based on these like very high multiples. And I think the whole buzz around esports is then gonna change the like old minds that gaming is an actual business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Niklas. I think you can't compare it still in Europe with the States or Asia. Well, we're definitely moving into the right direction. Still too many politics in the game, but well, hell. We're looking forward, and definitely a positive development in terms of funding.
Yeah, and it's good to see. It's good to see, and I'm trying to put more people onto here that aren't esports teams, I think, because they've gotten, like Niklas was saying, they've gotten all of the interest so far, and I feel like for me, the investor landscape's changing, where a lot of the time in the past, any company, any investor who would come to me, not from the gaming space, the first thing would be, I want to buy a team. And I go, not again. I want to invest in an esports team. And it was the same. It's how I met my investors too. They were a client of mine to start off with. And that was their number one thing. We want to buy a team and we want to make an apparel company. And I kind of told them why, for them anyway, both of those ideas weren't good. And they ended up saying, look, we want to invest in you to help us find out what to do, which is great. But yeah, it's good to see some more interest coming away from those teams. But you're right in the fact that we talked about this in the last one, and Taylor brought that up specifically about Godsent, that we had on having much more realistic valuations than some others, which you see are claimed, 12x to 22x is kind of pretty standard with these esports teams, which is a lot of money to throw around, big valuations. What's your thoughts on that, Chris, around these esports teams valuations, but also esports companies as a whole?
Yeah, so I transitioned from sports into esports about a year ago and understanding this landscape. And at that point, everybody I spoke to was already like, esports teams, stay away from them. Everything was looking forward. So I think at that point, it was already well known a year ago that not that there's not opportunity in esports teams, but that there's so much more on the esports landscape. So the underlying infrastructure is still where I see the opportunity. And as I said sort of earlier, I think the grassroots area is very interesting as well. Because if you look at traditional sports, that's what all traditional sports have. And we still don't have that in esports. And I think that's that's the final piece that will really propel it above all the other sports.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. And it's not definitely, and like you were saying, and to reiterate from me, it's not saying that all esports teams are a bad investment, but it's explaining to people that there's so much more opportunity. Because I think it just makes sense, right? It makes sense that in Australia, 2 Australian Football League teams bought esports teams. One has exited since the industry, and one's still stuck around. It only makes sense. If you already run a team, you know how that works. You can probably sell sponsors across both of them. You know how to manage players, you know how to manage clients, and you know the basic monetization process. But if you're talking about, a blockchain-based 1v1 system, or you're talking about kind of a social network and such, it can be a bit harder for these people to understand and requires much more conversation. Fantastic, guys. Well, once again, thanks so much for all of you joining in, and for anybody who's watching here across the Twitch stream, thank you for the support from Twitch as well as LinkedIn Live. We will be doing these again. At the moment, we're doing them every 2 weeks, but depending on how many people show some interest, we might start doing these weekly. We've got about 32 startups as a whole that have applied. And we've gone through 6 of them now, so we're happy to accept more. You can just feel free to head to any of my posts about this. There's a Google form in there. You can send me a message on LinkedIn or on Twitter at SmithyMayo across all the social channels, or also at BIG Esports _GG across all the channels. Thanks once again for all you guys coming here today, and thanks everyone for watching. I think it's been a pretty good experience.
Thank you very much, guys.
For having us.
Take care.
Thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.